It is time to dive into the brand new Early Days Collection game. I've got it early. That's kind of really fitting, to be fair. My retail in stock, and I was like, you know what? Next day order, we've got it. This is a brief overview of the game, what games are inside it, what the options are, etc. We'll try and play online, see if it works. It probably won't do, and give my overall thoughts on the package as a whole. So first of all, options is just going to be your usual language selection. You can do this anyway per game basis, and so it doesn't really matter too much, but it's still there. For online, you've got one game only so far, and that's DM4. Now, this has every card in the game unlocked by default. So you can go to your trunk, go and get 3 copies of Blue Eyes, add them to your deck. You can see the card details, see all the sprite work, and so you haven't got to go through and play all of the games, unlock them to get all the cards. It's kind of just treated like a cheat hack in a way. You've got unlockable cards, and you just go in, you build your deck, and then you go and play online. This is a Game Boy Color game, and so it is a little bit wonky, but there's also no people online, or I imagine the matchmaking servers aren't up yet because the game isn't out yet, which does just make so much sense. I don't know if there's crossplay between Switch and PC. I don't believe there is because they've not said it yet. They've not announced it, so I would say there probably isn't, but hopefully there is, but probably not. And we know we're getting more games after release coming for online play, and I kind of hope they go for some of the more modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Style games, because that one is based on the more old school game style when you had the whole star sign things, the alignments, you had power bonuses, etc. You could play 1 card per turn. It was very simple, very straightforward. Now, what do we have? Well, we have 14 games spanning the first 4 years or so of Yu-Gi-Oh's Game Boy life cycle, and it is a fairly complete collection of titles. Some of them, of course, better than others. Now, a lot of them are new to us in English, right? This one, DM1, is brand new in English. We played it, I think, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, for an English patch when that came out. Fan made before Master released, and so that was kind of cool. But this, of course, is just like a official way of going in and playing the game. Now, each game, you can press the R2 button and get your options menu. You've got a save state, you can load that save state. You've got your manual, which you can see. And for this one, I believe it's a translation, of course, of the original one. The other ones are going to be the original localized ones, and you can go in, zoom in. You are going to want to read a bunch of these manuals because they will explain all the intricacies of the game, right? How the game works. A lot of these early game campaigns are you duel 5 people, you duel them 5 times, and you get more stages, and that's kind of the main gameplay gimmick. But it's always cool to see all the old artwork, right? You've got the affinity chart here, what power bonus certain cards get. In later games, you've got the ability to just instantly destroy a card, right? If you're a water versus a fire, you'll instantly win, right? You'll instantly win that battle. You've then got controls, you can remap them, and I believe only Game Boy Color games and Game Boy games have fast forward. I think GBA games don't have fast forward. It might be on a per game basis, it might not be, but all of them feature rewind, which is really neat. You've got different screen sizes, you can go for the original, full, wide, original. You've got different filters between TV, monitor filter, LCD, off, and if you prefer your game look like this, you can do. If not, you can have it look just like normal pixel perfect, probably what most people are going to go for. Then you've got borders, and this is the only, you've only got like one option, is on or off, right? So each game has its own border, or you can just turn it off and go for a straight black screen. And of course, you've got color palettes, right, for the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Light, which is all fairly cool. Now, in terms of the games, they are playing exactly as they used to, right? There is no real enhancements. It's just, if they're not in English, they're now in English, aside from DM6, because I haven't got a remake. But you can just go in, duel your opponent, and this is the first ever Yu-Gi-Oh game released on Game Boy. It is very, very straightforward, right? You've got your sparks, you've got your dark plant. I'm going to play my guy here, and I'm going to put him in attack, and then in my turn. And in future games, you've got to manually end your turn, right? In DM2, the game's evolved, it's now in color, and there's kind of more going on. Yeah, we can play sparks, lose life points, we can then not summon a monster this turn. Back in the day, they used to do only one kind of action per turn in terms of a new card coming out. And so, I find that DM1 is not the best way of kind of experiencing these old Game Boy games because it's missing a bunch of the cards that we would get in, say, DM2, or Dark Duel Stories, or DM4. Either go for Dark Duel Stories or DM4 as the kind of one you want to play for your Game Boy Color game, right? So you can go in this one, it'll load up, and it'll look very, very similar, right? There's going to be different context, right, for the story, the light story there kind of is. You're going to go in, you're going to face off against a bunch of players, and duel them 5 times, and then new players will spawn, duel them 5 times, same thing again to get to the end of the game. And that's just kind of the general gist of those ones. So of course, each of the games have their own little gimmicks, right? So this one has some card crafting you can do, but a lot of the features in the games don't work, right? Versus doesn't work, trading doesn't work, of course, because there's no local play, which is kind of disappointing for the Switch version in particular, but I get why I've not done it. But It'd have been cool if you could do that just online, because so many other games actually do work that way. So let's quickly go through the games overall and just tell you what type of game they are. So first of all, you got DM1, DM2, DM3, Dark Door Stories, and DM4. All of these use the Forbidden Memory style of gameplay in that you're playing a card per turn, you've got the whole Star Sign Affinity thing, you've got the Field Power bonus, and things work a little bit differently than you kind of expect. You've then got Monster Capital GB, which is, as best I can describe because I've not played it yet, it is kind of like a RPG, right? It's got a story, you're moving around an overworld, and we never got this. And so this whole translation is going to be new, the context's going to be new, and fingers crossed it's going to be a fairly fun time to go in and play and have this monster battle game. But again, I've not started yet. I kind of want to go in fresh for that one. We've then got Dungeon Dice Monster, the classic, the OG. Everyone loves this game. It's a bit grindy, a bit RNG based, of course, being that you are relying on a dice roll. Absolute classic. We're going to go and try and roll a playable hand. We're probably not going to go for all level 1s. That's actually level 2, so I don't want to go for that one. I'm going to go for a level 1. Let's just go for the Twin-Headed Dragon. Why not? And let's see. Can we roll a playable hand on turn 1? No, we can't. We've got some Movement Crest, and that's about it. This is one of the better spin-off games Yu-Gi-Oh has, right, for handheld. It's the one people kind of go to as, you know, something they'd like to see kind of brought back and more modernized. Of course, this is what we're kind of stuck with. It would be cool if we could play online with Dungeon Dice Monsters eventually. I don't know if the game initially actually supported that, but I assume that it did, right? I assume there was some form of online play. We can actually check it out, right? We can actually check out if it did, right? So we can go load back in and then just go to the menu and just see if it did have a local play or not. It did have Link Duel. Okay, so maybe sometime down the line we can get online play for this. That'd be cool. We've then got the Eternal Duelist Soul. Now this one is going to be the first real TCG style game in the collection, of one people remember from their childhood. It's still fairly straightforward, right? It's still going to be you're facing 5 duelists at a time. You've got to get a certain amount of wins, then progress through to the next tier. And but it is just, it's Yu-Gi-Oh in its, you know, base form, right? It is going to be playing with old school cards, old school rule set, and if you've played Master Duel, then you will know how to play this game. If you don't get sick from the background moving so fast, which I think is a common complaint with this game in particular. But, you know, we can go and draw cards from our deck, we can go and set face down Mystical Elf, and hope our opponent just walks into it. You know, summon a 700 body, attack in, deal some big damage. Going for the Mu Yan Curry, you've got a nice little animation when it comes through, Chain Link activating, and then Chain Link resolving. So it's a fairly slow gameplay. I believe you can speed up by pressing L1, I believe, at the start of the duel. Jinzo number 7, so very, very weak. Going to be swinging in, dealing himself some damage. Wait, no, wait. Wait, can Jinzo attack directly? It can do okay. So you can, of course, go and rewind by holding down the left trigger. You can go through back through actions and take your turn again and hope the opponent does something a bit different, which they probably won't do. We'll set our trap hole, move on to the next game being a DM6 Sector 2, only in Japanese, because we got the remake in the Worldwide Edition. We then go back to the Sacred Cards and Rest of Destruction, two of what people consider to be the better handheld games. They go back to using the same rule set the DM1 to 4 use. So, Spin Memory style, you've got the star alignments, you've got all these field power bonuses, but there is a real story here. Breast Chef is apparently really, really difficult, but you can make it easier because you can, for every game in the collection, go for enhancements, right? You can either unlock all cards, change your maximum deck capacity, and Duelist level to make it so you can build whatever decks you want, right? Because in these games, you are limited to what cards you can play, what cards you can put in your deck, depending on how much you play the game, how many wins you get, how many packs you open. But this one, as you can see, is more RPG-ish, right? You've got an overworld, you're going around, you're facing duelists, you're challenging them to battles, and it is more akin to a more modern World Championship game, right? In a sense, it is still fairly straightforward. The story is a bit more there for this game, and as you can see, some characters won't duel you if you haven't got the right character level. So what you've got to challenge all these weaker opponents to build up those duelist levels, which you can just unlock, right? And for this one in particular, you have got to offer up an anti-card from the collection because it is based on the Battle Sea arc. This looks very similar to Forbidden Memories, right? The duel field looks very similar. The way the cards work is very, very similar. You place a card, you choose where you want to attack, defend, sacrifice, it'll use the effect. We're going to go for just a straight up attack on this one, and then we're going to end our turn. This one has the manual turn end, and your opponent then goes, they're going to play a card face down, back to you of course. We'll go for, I don't know, the Mechaleon, summon you, go and attack it, and I believe you can actually do these things in different orders, right? We're going to test that, right? That was Morphing Jar, okay. So we should be able to attack with this, right? Attack into Ancient Jar, attack with Morphing Jar, and then go for the summon of a level 5 if we had an attack monster this turn, because it counts as one of the actions. We can still summon, we can still attack, but we are limited by one action per card per turn. You either attack, defend, affect, or sacrifice, and you can only summon, of course, one monster per turn. So we'll then go for our big level 5 boy. We'll swing in with our Mecha Leon, killing Mrs. Radiant. We'll go in for an attack with the Bolt Escargot, and return back to the menu for Worldwide Edition, which is a remake of DM6. This does use the standard dueling system, I believe. Yeah, you can tell because if it just has unlockable cards. But this one is a different system where you use a map and you see what characters on the map rather than roaming around it. So all of them have different little gameplay gimmicks, even if the core gameplay component is very similar. You've then got Watch 2004, and you've got Trials to Glory. Both of them are going to be, again, core dueling games like the TCG side of things. 2004 is very straightforward. You're dueling, again, 5 players, multiple levels of difficulty, you unlock more of them, and then Trials to Glory has you moving around Overworld again. So you can see they kind of flip-flop back and forth between different styles of gameplay. The main way you duel, the way you acquire cards, is going to be very similar between them. It's either you're going to be getting cards after winning a duel, or get a pack after winning a duel, or you've got to go to the shop and buy cards. And finally is Destiny Board Traveler. This is the weirdest game in the collection by far, and I think the weakest one in terms of spin-offs. It is a Mario Party-esque RPG board game. The text on this is kind of hard to read, and this is a bit of a complaint when this first came out. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know with this one. But overall, that's my quick-ish 20-minute, I don't know, look at Early Days Collection. There is, of course, more to discover these games, right? That was a very brief overview of the type of game they are. You can find more about them online, of course. They are years old. You can change the language of the game by pressing Y if you want to play in a language more local to you. But overall, it's a pretty neat collection of games. I do wonder how people are going to kind of react to playing these again for potentially the first time we come back to them, because it is a bit, you know, a bit jarring come back to how slow some of these games can feel, how clunky the deck building is on some of them, especially the Game Boy Advance ones. But it's really cool this exists, just straight up. Now, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's sooner rather than later we see more games added to the online play, because I think that people are going in and they don't quite know that this is the only game in the collection that's gone online. And I think people would have kind of hoped for this one plus a TCG one, right, as of launch, right, because that'd have been, you know, that'd have been the best thing, right, to have kind of both bases kind of covered. But no, they've gone for DM4. It was one of the best-selling Game Boy Color games in Japan, like back in 2000. It was crazy how popular this game was. It was split into 3 versions with different promo cards, so that does kind of make sense. I just kind of wish for a bit more when it comes to online. Hopefully we get, you know, a World Championship game put online, we get Dungeon Dice mods online. That'd be cool as well. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. This video was all over the place. I apologize, but if I went in depth in all of them, it would be a very, very long video. Just my big advice is you've got to look at the manuals before you go into the game, because they don't explain the controls or how to duel or how the menus work at all. It's a 2000 game. They want you to read the manuals. Read them. But anyway, that's all. Thanks for watching. Adios.